Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Wow. Major breaking news.
Yeah.
And I promise it's not Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce wedding related. It's not the twin schedule. This is the big, I guess, rumored trade coming to fruition here, Judd. Adam Thielen back to the Minnesota Vikings. And it winds up being 4 draft picks involved here. Mm-hmm. And it winds up essentially being a pick swap. So the Vikings trade Adam Thielen, or the Panthers trade Adam Thielen to the Minnesota Vikings, along with, let me pull this up from Tom Pelissero, was the first one I saw.
Okay.
Along with a conditional 2026 7th-round pick and a 2027 5th-round pick. So those are the things that the Vikings get. Carolina gets a 2026 5th-round pick and a 2027 4th.
Yeah.
So for the Vikings, it's Thielen. Let's say the conditional 7th comes into play here, moving back from the 5th to the 7th in 26, and then moving back from the 4th to the 5th in 2027. But Adam Thielen coming home and putting on a Vikings jersey once again.
So I think it's a fair trade, right? I mean, the Panthers do end up with a decent haul for a guy who's now 35 years old. But, yeah, I mean, this is really, really good timing considering the fact that, as we've been talking about, Jordan Addison suspended for 3 games. Jalen Naylor, I don't think, is going to probably play. Just guessing here because of the hand injury that Doogie performed. There was a surgical procedure on in the opener. That might be the hope, but I don't know that it's realistic. And so, you know what? For covering 3 games, and then, I mean, best case, he challenges Jalen, I think, for the number 3 job. Worst case, he's the 4th guy, which is not bad. As we looked at that depth chart yesterday, we knew that that was not what they could go into the opener against the Bears with. So I think that given, you know, as long as you don't expect this to be Adam Thielen 2017, I think if the expectations are realistic, this is the type of trade that I certainly think is a good idea and will cover you for 3 games. And if nothing else, also, like I said, creates a little bit more competition in that room. And he's a guy that even if he doesn't get the separation, even if the speed and things like that have deteriorated, he is a professional. He runs great routes. He is going to give J.J. McCarthy a consistent target. And that is, I think, the most important thing.
Agreed. Yeah, he's 35. In fact, happy birthday. He just turned 35 5 days ago, or earlier this week or last weekend. I think it was last Friday. But he still has gas left in the tank, man. I mean, he's obviously not the same player he was maybe 8 years ago, like 2017, 2018 Thielen. But you said it. He runs great routes. He understands the system. And based on the timing of this, you needed someone that could come in here that understands there's no learning curve. You come in, you get the verbiage. You even maybe have some semblance of timing with the quarterback, which it helps that those guys, J.J. McCarthy and Adam Thielen, have been working out together throughout portions of the last 2 off seasons. And in terms of just being respected in the locker room, he integrates right in. He knows a lot of the guys that are still here from a few years ago. There's a lot of fresh faces, a lot of new offensive and defensive linemen, but in terms of just his work with J.J. McCarthy in the offseason, Justin Jefferson, Kevin O'Connell. And it's just a cool story. Because you could say the same thing about, well, KJ Osborne knows the system from a couple years ago. Robert Woods doesn't know the Vikings, but Robert Woods was one of the key wide receiver figures on that Rams team that won the championship with Kevin O'Connell as offensive coordinator. But this is just a cool story to tie it all together. So, yeah, Adam Thielen back in purple.
And I think the expectations, obviously, from the Thielen camp this time around will be quite different than when he departed last time. And there was definitely a feeling. His wife articulated them in tweets and on Instagram, but I'm sure that those are things that he was frustrated at the time, or by at the time. Yeah. And so I think now the expectation with him coming back from everybody is going to be the same. And yeah, so it's really important for 3 games. It becomes probably a little bit less important after that. but nonetheless, it gives you some depth. You just flat out, the problem was, until right now, you just flat out lacked season-long depth, right? Because, like, Addison comes back. Naylor's a nice player. I like him, but he's certainly not the greatest. And so now you've got a room where you're pretty confident if somebody goes down, you've got some depth there. And, I hate to bring this up, but keep in mind, too, Justin Jefferson battled a hamstring injury that cost him, I believe it was 8 games a couple of years ago. And he missed almost all of training camp because of concerns about a hamstring on his other leg. So you can't be haughty or cocky about, well, everybody, when they're healthy, it's going to be just fine, because you don't know. This is a league where guys, including your superstars, unfortunately get hurt. So, yeah, I think it's a good trade for the Vikings. And quite frankly, I think the Panthers fared well, right? 2026, a fifth, a fourth in 27. Yeah. The Vikings got something back. But I can see where there was some deliberation from the Vikings probably about what the return was going to be. Flat out, a third-round pick was ridiculous. I guess my only question is now, in the last year of Adam's contract, who's paying what? Because that's going to be part of this too. Because I think that was a big part of the discussion was, we not only want compensation back, but we also want you to take on a decent portion of Adam's contract.
Yeah, there are some other tentacles here, like, the Vikings are trying to figure this out in their negotiations with the Panthers, but the Vikings are $50 million over next year's cap. Yep. And you can take your unused cap space from this year and roll some of that over into next year. And the Vikings have like $30 million in unused cap space for this year based on the way they kind of pushed money forward and did their books. But that was part of the negotiation, picking up some of his base salary for this year. So we'll see if more reported details come out about that. But yeah, I mean, last year, just if you're wondering how much gas does he really have in the tank, so he did miss half the season with Carolina last year, but he comes back, and Bryce Young was playing his ass off the second half of the year. And Thielen had a game against Tampa his second week back in week 13, 8 catches, 99 yards, a touchdown at Philadelphia, which I think Carolina had a second half or fourth quarter lead at Philadelphia, 9 catches for 102 yards. And then the rest of the year, he caught at least 5 passes in every game for at least 40 yards and had 3 more touchdowns. So he can still play. And I don't think this is just a 3-week stopgap. You kind of mentioned it earlier here in our reaction. When Addison comes back, you've got your Jefferson, Addison, number 1, number 2. But Kevin O'Connell loves to run 3 wide receiver sets. And there's a really good chance that Adam Thielen eats into Jalen Naylor's playing time as it would have been projected before this trade. But Naylor with the hand issue and some of the drops from last year,
right?
He was going into kind of a prove it year anyways, a contract year. So kind of bad luck for Jalen Naylor in that regard, and that his injury and then the Jordan Addison suspension put the Vikings in a spot where they had to go get a guy. And Adam Thielen is probably going to be a factor if he stays healthy for the entire season.
The only problem with this trade that I see is this, because every telecast is essentially different announcers, and it's a national telecast. So we're going to hear the same story over and over and over again with the entire background, which I think we were all, as Vikings followers and fans, sick of hearing the last time. That's the only problem I can find, because there's going to be a devoted segment to, let's explain how this is a great story about a undrafted guy from Minnesota State Mankato who comes home, and now we're going to hear about that. But beyond that, I think it's a win.
Yeah. By the way, PFF had him 76 as a grade overall last year, which is way above average for wide receivers. And they had him, I think, in terms of like drop rate, he only dropped 2 passes last year. Sometimes guys get toward the end and their hands aren't quite what they were, but he can still run a route. He's not a yards after the catch guy as much as he was early in his career.
Yep.
The beginning part of his career, I mean, he was like 4.5, 5 yards after the catch per catch, and that's down to like 3 now. But he can still stick his foot in the ground and catch a pass on 3rd and 7, and that's what they need.
Absolutely. I also, my guess is it's going to be easier, or it should be easier to keep him healthy, because the snap count doesn't have to be large. Like, it can be controlled now. So to keep guys out there, especially at his age, that's probably pretty important. But yeah, you know what? This was clearly the guy that the Vikings pursued, and we talked about this on the show yesterday. It certainly appeared as if the asking price might be too big, and we talked about other options, but this was the guy that they were trying to get back, and they did. And you're exactly right, Phil. The most important thing is there's no time to be like, okay, let me show you our intricate offense.
Yeah, there's
Like, you're
a
just
week
gonna
and a
have to play.
half left before the season starts.
Yep.
And just the timing and everything that would be needed. So, and they've got 11 draft picks projected with the comp picks in 2026. So they actually don't lose.
Yep.
They don't lose like the number of picks. They just move back. By the way, his wife, Mrs. T19 on Instagram, just posted a video of like Adam and looks like their daughter jumping up and down, celebrating, going back to Minnesota. So, you know what? He got his bag. The Vikings weren't going to give him the money that Carolina gave him, and they weren't going to give him the target shares. They were looking to draft somebody else.
Right.
So he winds up getting a big chunk of money. He helps a young quarterback in Bryce Young in Carolina, and now he gets to come here and potentially fight for a Super Bowl for the next couple of years.
And suddenly that work he did at Woodbury High School with
Very
J.J.
meaningful.
McCarthy seems more important, right? You're like, okay,
Yeah.
he likes him, he's working with him, he flew Bryce Young here, and it's like, oh, okay, it's a nice story, and now it's like, oh, no, this actually worked out pretty damn well for him to have worked out with J.J. McCarthy.
Yep. All right, so yeah, we just wanted to pop on here, little emergency podcast, do a quick reaction, and then we're going to be once again live at the Minnesota State Fair it'll be 3 hours of Score North podcast, Judd's Hockey Show from noon to 1, Purple Daily scheduled from 1 until 2:15, 2:30, and then a Mackey and Judd. So we'll have more Adam Thielen reaction later today, live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, and also on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find Purple Daily and your podcasts. So write that down, predictions, Adam Thielen reaction, and plenty more. So for the Sports Dad, for Phil, and for Adam Thielen coming back home to Minnesota,
whole family
and the Vikings, they solve a major need with a week and a half to go until the regular season. Purple Daily, we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.